Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. He's Paul Ogden.
He's Mark Small.
And we're here on October 27, 2012. Beautiful sunny afternoon in Broad Ripple.
A week and a half before the election, Mark.
Only a week and a half. Next Saturday we'll be hosting John Easter, Matt Stone, and Jeff Cox to discuss last-minute predictions on the election.
Those are heavy hitters, Mark.
Very heavy hitters.
Yes.
John Easter has, well, all three are
prior. Matt Large already made his predictions, so we're going to...
Matt Stone.
Matt. I knew a Mort Large, that's where I get confused. Okay. Matt Large. Matt Stone. Matt has already made his predictions about 6 weeks ago.
But I think he might revise them a little bit or something.
He's not allowed to, they're set in stone.
That's Matt Stone. But we'll be giving prognostications on the election next Saturday, and we'll be shooting live to discuss what is going to happen a couple of days after that, or 3 days after that. Going back to what we were discussing before in terms of, we've been discussing the Electoral College. Another race in which President Obama has an advantage is Ohio. That's 18 electoral votes, but that's a 2.3 lead on average of all the polls.
And that has remained fairly steady. I mean, he's lost some on that lead, but he's remained a fairly steady lead in Ohio. I mean, we're not talking much of a lead at all, but
no, but
it's been pretty steady.
One factor on that, though, is being that the Republican Party tried to exclude people from voting early, and then a whole bunch more people came out to vote early than they had before. Once the court held that the Republican Party couldn't do that through the legislature, but all the numbers are up for early voting.
I just don't. I think that's overplayed. The whole early voting, it's early voting going a certain way. Well, that just means later voting is going to go the other way.
Yes, except like
the Romney people will find their ways to the polls on election day.
Maybe not. I don't know. In 2008, black registered voters made up 22% of the entire electorate, but that combines both early voting and election day voting. Among early voters, black voters were 29% of all the early votes cast, with white voters being 67%. In the first 4 days of early voting, black voters are 35% of the early votes cast and are building up on their numbers from 4 years ago. White voters are down to 60% of the votes cast. So we're seeing more people turn out in early numbers, and they're more likely to be minority groups.
Yeah.
So that's going to have an effect.
There was an article in the Star this week from David Orntlicher, who's a law professor and also a doctor, I believe, but he's also in the legislature. And
for a while he was.
Well, for a while. And he surprisingly took a dim view on early voting, that we're getting away from the idea of the community joining together on election day and voting.
Well, and I think that's kind of it.
Plus, a lot of the campaigning takes place in the last month. Political campaigns do everything at the last minute.
And that was something in the 1964 race that Goldwater didn't understand, or his people didn't. They didn't want to go into the red on their campaign, and so they didn't buy ad campaign time on media, primarily on TV and radio then, until they had the money. And so when they finally had the money to buy the airtime, Johnson's people had bought up all the airtime, and people running for various other offices.
Right.
So that was one of the big errors that was made. We have New Hampshire is showing Obama by 1.1%.
Yeah.
That's really tight, but then you're looking at people in New Hampshire who've actually been familiar with Romney from being next door, and they might be, one argument is they know him a lot better and they like him a lot better. Then again, they might know him a lot better and not like him.
Well, there are a lot higher percent of Republicans in New Hampshire than are in Massachusetts.
That's true.
But I still think that would probably go to Obama.
So then you've got...
surrounded by hostile territory.
You have Iowa that everybody's talked about.
Iowa's got a shot in.
But Obama's up by 2.3% there. A lot of people talk about the evangelicals in Iowa. Iowa generally is a very liberal state.
Yeah, but the Republican segment of the population is pretty evangelical. and Wisconsin too. You're going to mention that. Some polling actually had them tied.
Well, but Wisconsin overall, I mean, Wisconsin has had people who've been Republican historically, who've been very prominent in the party. Robert La Follette. Joe McCarthy was a Republican, but he was originally elected as a liberal Republican. But
well, you got Tommy Thompson up there, governor, and he's in a very tight race.
He's in a very tight race. We'll get to the Senate races in just a minute. But Wisconsin generally is fairly liberal, and
I saw a poll the other day from Minnesota saying that's gotten real tight.
Well, and
I don't know if you got that on your list or not.
No, I don't. But
I'd be shocked at Minnesota. I would not be as shocked at Wisconsin or Iowa, but I doubt it.
You'd be shocked if Minnesota what?
Went to Romney.
I think I would be too. What about Michelle Bachmann? Her race is tight.
I've not been following Michelle Bachmann.
If they
I assume she's in a fairly heavily Republican district.
She'd have to be, but
it's harder.
Her husband is doing Broadway musical themed television advertising, and I think he's losing part of the electorate because of that.
Oh. Sort of like Huffington.
So overall, we're looking at a situation in which, Romney might be showing 1% right now.
Well, you didn't even get to the western states yet.
Yeah, but the western states I'm looking at the swing states that are toss-ups.
Colorado's not a toss-up?
Colorado is showing a tie right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much a toss-up.
That's true. So that's a tie. Now, where else was it?
Well, Nevada's a toss-up.
Nevada, Obama's up by 2.5 they're showing right now, and that's 6 electoral votes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Arizona, actually, there's a poll that had the most recent poll there had Obama ahead in Arizona. And that's tightened up the other way.
And Arizona has become more of a Democratic Party state.
Well, Romney does not do well with Hispanic voters. Bush actually did fairly well with Hispanic voters. Romney did not.
And that's going to, that's something that's,
and that's part of the Republican Party with and there's some Democrats too. They have the policy that no compromise on immigration. Because Bush, even Mike Pence, they took the position we need to do comprehensive immigration reform, including reforming the system, where now it takes like 10 years to get through the system. It costs tens of thousands of dollars, which is good for lawyers, but not good for the people wanting to get in the country.
That's true.
So we don't want to put lawyers out of business.
Actually, we don't want to line their pockets unnecessarily.
Sure.
So we have a situation right now where Romney arguably is up by 1%, but we're looking at all these toss-up states such that it looks like President Obama has an excellent chance at re-election.
And the theory out there right now is that it's very possible Romney will win the popular vote but lose the electoral vote.
We'll talk about this with more accuracy perhaps or less next weekend, but I just don't see that as happening. Maybe it'll be really, really close in the popular vote. I do see President Obama as having a real good chance of taking the electoral vote. I don't see it as going into the House. And if it does go to the House...
Go to the House, it's going to be exact. First of all,
31-17.
It's got to be exact tie.
It's got to be an exact tie.
Because there's no third-party candidate that's going to get electoral votes.
Also, 31 House delegations are Republicans, right. 17 are Democratic. Even if a couple of those delegations would have somebody go rogue, and 2 are kind of are a tie. Yeah, they have. That still gives Romney a majority of the House delegations. But see,
wait a second. The electors, 269 to 269.
Then it goes to the House.
Okay, so after the election, 269, you have a 3-week period before the electors actually vote. Mm-hmm. Let's say President Obama goes to someone on the Republican side that's an elector and says, hey, I want to give you ambassadorship to England, to the UK or whatever. And that person switches his vote. It doesn't go to the Electoral College at that point. That means Obama wins.
Well, first of all, I think that's that possibly is a felony.
It's not a felony.
Giving somebody an inducement, a material inducement to cast their vote.
Okay.
When the vote is kind of like, it's like saying that, hey, juror, come over here a second. I know you're on your way to the restroom, but
why are we assuming
congratulations, you just won a new car.
Why?
You won a new Cadillac.
All right. We don't have to be that direct. But why are we assuming that out of 538 votes, individuals, none of them change their mind?
No, that's a possibility. But what I'm saying is, in the event that we'd go to the House.
Then Romney wins.
Yeah, we have 31 delegations that are Republican, 17 that are Democratic, and 2 that are a split. One of which is a split right now only because one of the House seats is vacant.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Now, in terms of recent polling and U.S. Senate races, Indiana has had a huge thing happen this week with Murdoch making a really idiotic statement. The latest Howie DePaul poll showed Joe Donnelly up by 2 points.
Yeah, and then there was a more recent poll than that had Murdoch up by like 3.
Well, Rasmussen had him up by 5, but I don't think that's realistic at this point.
Well, none of those are realistic at this point. I think it's probably down about 7 or 8, 9.
McCaskill in Missouri is up 4.2.
McCaskill, you're looking at the Real Clear Politics Average poll. Their poll just released today that I wrote about on my blog, Ogden on Politics, that had him up 2 points. They had him only up 2 points. I still think McCaskill will win that, but she's apparently a very, very weak candidate. Donnelly, I don't think is as weak a candidate as she is.
Connecticut, the wrestling Linda McMahon. She's down 3.1 points on the Real Politic poll.
Right, but any Republican who can do that well in Connecticut, that's pretty darn good.
Then Ohio.
Connecticut has surprisingly become a little more Republican.
But it's still pretty solid. I mean, when all of their U.S. House of Representatives are members of the House are Democrats.
I'm not sure about that, but
I
I wouldn't be.
But
you look at look at the presidential race, you're down about 7 points or so.
Then we have our neighbor to the east, Ohio. Sherrod Brown's at 5.2. I don't see that as changing. And then
didn't know we were going to talk about all the Senate races. I'm going to study that more.
I just kind of tossed those in. So what it boils down to is, if we were to look at changing the Electoral College, we could do it where the California, Illinois, New Jersey, Washington, Massachusetts require that they've got a thing where the national popular vote goes to one candidate, then their electoral votes go to that candidate.
Is that part of the law?
Yes. Only if all of the other states agree. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was going to say.
Sorry about that. Only if all the other states agree.
And
I think that's kind of, that puts a lot of emphasis on.
Colorado had a proposal going a few years ago, and we should clarify this is totally up to the states. States can do whatever they want. Colorado had the idea that their electoral college would be apportioned according to the popular vote in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you win, I'm not sure how many electoral votes Colorado
10.
has. 10. Well, they have 9 or 11. It says 9, so they would have 11. Well, we can talk about this in the next segment.
Okay. We'll be right back. President Obama